What's up, Yahoo Sports Daily? It's Dan Titus, and here's what happened while you were sleeping on NBA opening night. The NBA is back on NBC, and man, that presentation was great from start to finish. That was exactly what the NBA needed, and fans were treated to a double overtime thriller between the Houston Rockets and the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Rockets led for most of the game thanks to a monstrous performance from Alperen Şengün, who dropped 39 points with 11 rebounds and 7 assists, even delivered a career-high 5 three-pointers. Kevin Durant made his Rockets debut with 23 points and 9 boards, but most fans are probably going to remember that almost Chris Webber moment where Kevin Durant called a timeout in the first overtime when the Rockets had none left. Fortunately, the refs missed it, the game moved on, and that's when gilgeous-alexander took the game into his own hands. He scored 30 of his 35 points in the second half, but sealed the game with 2 clutch free throws, fouling out Kevin Durant in the process. The Thunder edged out the Rockets 125 to 124, and a great game also from Chet Holmgren, who dropped 28 points. Now, on to LA, where the Lakers did their best to keep up with the Golden State Warriors, but fell short 119 to 109. Luka Dončić had an MVP-like performance, dropping 43 points with 12 rebounds and 9 assists. Austin Reeves added 26 points, but in the end, the Golden State Warriors' depth was just far too much. Jimmy Butler scored 17 of his team-high 31 points in the first half, and then, of course, Steph Curry had to deliver the knockout blow with a dagger three-pointer to end the game. He finished with 23 points. So, I gotta ask you guys, with the Lakers looking so dependent on Luka Dončić to put up MVP numbers and Austin Reeves, is this team really a contender in the Western Conference? It just looks like there's just too many flaws and holes in this depth for the Lakers to actually be a viable contender. Want to get your thoughts on that. Back to you.
Oh, Titus, thanks. Thanks for keeping us aware of everything. And you're right. Like, that was a big night for Luka. Should be a note. Keep an eye on that hamstring. Luka was gripping at the hamstring a little bit. We'll see what that means moving forward for him. But, you know, let's look at that question that came from Dan, Caroline. Like, do we believe that the Lakers can be a competitor in the West when they're so Luka dependent? And look, I don't think that Austin Reeves is going to be what Austin Reeves was last night, every single night. But I watched a lot of that game, and I thought it was pretty impressive how much the Lakers did stay in. Even when Luka was on the bench, the Lakers managed to hold their own in that one. I think the hardest part about this is just, if we're being honest, it's almost impossible to actually evaluate who the Lakers are until they get LeBron. Like, I'm not trying to push the question off, Caroline, but, like, let's be honest. Yes, they have one of the best players in the world. Well, if we believe that LeBron is number 2 in LA, well, he'd be the best number 2 in the league. So will this team look better with the best number 2 in the league? I would think so. Like, that's pretty damn good, Robin. So I think it's just hard to evaluate this until we know what LeBron looks like with this team and how they're going to play together this year.
Yeah, hot take. Team doesn't look as good without LeBron James. Like, it's not rocket science, people. I know that LeBron James is 100 million years old, but he's still LeBron James. So I'm with you there, that if I can start to talk myself into the Lakers being contenders in the West and say, okay, if you're getting 40 plus from Luka night in and night out, which you're probably not, but let's just go ahead and assume that we're going to get offensive fireworks from Luka more often than not. Well, you add LeBron into the mix, that opens things up for Austin Reeves. He had 26 last night without LeBron. You add LeBron into the mix, and then you're forcing defenders to have to pay attention to LeBron and Luka. That might open things up for Austin Reeves. So if you have your number 1 in Luka, your number 2, your Robin to the Batman and LeBron James, and then you have Austin Reeves as a supplementary scorer, I can start to talk myself into there being enough offensive fireworks to take down some of these big bad teams in the West, but they have to do it with LeBron. Obviously, this team isn't going to be close to its ceiling without LeBron James, but just like based off of what we saw last night, I can't say they're a contender in the West. Obviously, things are going to change with LeBron. We understand that. But on a night where Luka Dončić drops 43 and you still lose by double digits, like, the depth on this Lakers team is incredibly concerning outside of LeBron. Luka 43, Austin Reeves 26, that should be enough to get it done, but not when the rest of your starting 5 can't combine for more points than Austin Reeves himself.
It's also hard for me not to look at the first game we saw and say, okay, That's what contenders look like in the West. We saw a instant classic, if you can have that on
Yeah.
opening night, a double overtime thriller that frankly came all the way down to the wire. I thought we might get triple overtime for the first time ever. In 2 overtimes, you see it right there. SGA was massive. Oklahoma City gets the 1-point win over Houston. What do you feel like we learned in that one?
I mean, how many opening night games do we get like that? Like, that was an absolute thriller. What I learned last night is those two might be some of the best teams in the West. Like, we talk about the depth of the West, we talk about how many legitimate contenders we have in the West. OKC and Houston are absolutely 2 of those. Like, if we get 2 of those or both of these teams in the postseason, if we get games like this in the postseason, if we get games like this in the Western Conference Final, like, absolutely positively sign me up for that. It was an absolute thriller, and I think it's just a peek behind the curtain of what's to come in that conference.
Look, Oklahoma City needed a minute to get used to the size for Houston, tallest starting lineup we've ever seen, right? Like, they went across the board and showed that early. But the fact is, OKC adjusted. And to me, as much as I watched this game and thought, okay, yes, Houston needs a point guard, I'm just going to acknowledge out of the gates, I think Houston needs to go out and acquire a point guard that can help them, knowing that they don't have Van Vliet this year. Now that we've said that, really, to me, the statement here is, boy, if you were bored with OKC last year, get ready to be bored even more. They are willing to just move the ball around until they find the best mid-range shot and just sink it. They are willing to just be patient. They're never overwhelmed in any of it. They were down double digits early, and I thought, wow, maybe they're just going to get shell-shocked. Nope. They just worked their way right back into it. They're deeper than everybody. They're younger still than almost everybody. And they have what should be more considered as the best player in the league, right? Like, SGA, I feel like we have to apologize when we talk about the greatness of Oklahoma City and the greatness of SGA. To me, I watched a massive, incredible game last night that showed, to your point, how great the West is. And I still walked away from it saying, yep, Oklahoma City is exactly who they were. They are a championship caliber. Like, get ready to be bored. Oklahoma City is going to be that damn good all year long.
Yeah, and I have to give OKC a whole lot of credit. I didn't doubt they'd be able to bounce back from a championship, but I did question this team that's very young, this team that might be the same average age as a lot of college teams out there. It can be easy to be at the mountaintop, to win a championship, to now you're a household name, now you're celebrities, now you have a ring. We've seen those championship hangovers, right? We've seen it from, a lot across sports. It could have been very easy for a rather young and inexperienced team to let that championship hangover take them over. We did not see that last night, not even in the slightest. I even saw maybe even a hungrier OKC team last night than maybe we even could have seen last season. And that was a hungry and scrappy team that we saw last year. So credit to OKC for having the level of maturity, of looking like vets and looking hungry and looking absolutely terrifying to any other team in the West, Fitzy.
Yeah, and I'll go back to the matchup nightmare. Like, late in the game when SGA needed a bucket, he attacked, and Houston didn't have any way to stop him from attacking. No matter how they tried to stop it at the end of regulation, at the end of overtime, at the end of double overtime, SGA did what he wanted, when he wanted, how he wanted throughout the course of the end of that game. And again, I know we spent a lot of time, this summer talking about star power because that's what we always do in the NBA. But that right there, that's star power.
I
SGA
love
right
that
there,
picture.
that joy, that ring. God, like, and those rings.
Find you
elite.
someone that looks at you like SGA looks at his NBA Finals ring.
Yeah, impossible. Like, because if I had one, I would look at it the same way. There was one other really cool moment last night. Yeah. We got to hear a little bit from Michael Jordan. There was a sit-down excerpt, only a couple minutes long, but as they were talking in the excerpt, in the interview with Jordan, it was really interesting to me, Caroline, because he talked about how he wishes he could take a magic pill and misses the competition and playing the game. And I just look at that, and it's a reminder we all need sometimes. Because I feel like what so often in media and fans, what we do is we sit there and we decide for athletes when it's time to shut it down. And when you see it, like, love it like you wouldn't believe. I wish I could take a magic pill, put on shorts, and go out and play the game of basketball today. It's what I live for. I miss it. It's your identity. It's your purpose for so much of your life. Like, look at LeBron. If LeBron wants to play 8 more seasons and go bounce from franchise to franchise to franchise, these moments are sort of a reminder to all of us, who the hell are we to tell him he can't do that? Like, you love the game, and once you walk away from it, you can never get that thing back. Go out and enjoy it for every single second that you can.
Yeah, I thought that was such a beautiful human moment because I feel like at times the legacy and the legend of Michael Jordan is bigger than the person Michael Jordan himself. So I think hearing that just raw and vulnerable emotion from him was such a reminder that he's human, that once upon a time he was just a kid who loved the game too. That above all of the money and the fame and the fortune and the legacy and the legend of who he is and what he's become, above all of that, he just loves the game of basketball. And it's a really lovely reminder, I think, to us, people who cover this sport, and to fans of this sport, that that's all any of these guys are, any of these athletes are. They were just once upon a time kids who just fell in love with the game. And I don't remember, the years of Michael Jordan. I wasn't alive for a majority of Michael Jordan's career. I was born in 1997. So I was really, my first memories of sports were after Michael Jordan hung it up. I don't remember, NBA on NBC, but man, round ball rock that hits. It hits you, really kind of in the feels there. But above all else, of all of the times in sports that I didn't live through, whether it was, Babe Ruth or the 70s 49ers or the 60s Steelers or the Cowboys of the 90s, I didn't live through any of that. But above all of those sports moments and those great sports teams and individuals, what I lament more than anything is the fact that I didn't get to live through Michael Jordan's time with the Bulls, that I didn't get to firsthand experience the greatness of Michael Jordan. And that is one that I will, think about for the rest of my life. I'll tell my kids about how I watched Tiger Woods and Tom Brady and LeBron James, and those were all great and wonderful. And I feel lucky to experience that greatness in sports. But I do lament the fact that I never got to watch Michael Jordan.